Having starred in more than 70 films, Willem Dafoe is one of Hollywood's most respected character actors. Best known for his ability to create intense and menacing baddies like the wicked Green Goblin in SpiderMan. Born in 1955 in Wisconsin, Willem Dafoe is actually not his birth name. It was William, but he hated the nickname Billy, so he changed it to Willem and it stuck. As a kid, he was a talented mimic and enrolled to study acting at college, but frustrated with the school's approach to the craft, he dropped out and joined an experimental theatre group. After gaining stage experience, he started picking up minor film roles playing toughs and villains. But his big break came when he was cast as the compassionate Sergeant Elias in Oliver Stone's Platoon. The film was a critical success, and Dafoe felt one of the reasons for this was that it was the right time to face some cold, hard truths about the Vietnam War.
Vietnam is something that everyone has in their history, and there was lots of guilt and anger and confusion about it, and I think enough time has passed that some things can be readdressed now.
Dafoe completely immersed himself in the role. To prepare for the film, he attended a 14-day military boot camp where he followed a strict military routine, eating only rations, doing drills and night patrols.
We were busy trying to be soldiers, and we were busy trying to shoot a movie in the jungle. It's not an easy thing to do.
It definitely paid off, with his performance earning him an Academy Award nomination. For his next film role, he starred as an idealistic FBI agent in Mississippi Burning and proved he could do much more than play a soldier.
When I first read the script, I thought it was a great project. One interesting thing was I didn't know about the character I was playing, but it was I thought it would be a challenge to play a character that was so repressed. And I think it was.
Whilst favoured for villainous roles, he continued to prove his versatility by depicting a wide range of characters in both mainstream and indie films, many with questionable morals. He was a tormented Jesus in The Last Temptation of Christ, a jaded paraplegic in Born on the 4th of July, a sociopath in Wild at Heart, a defence lawyer in Body of Evidence, a computer-savvy terrorist in Speed 2, and an eccentric FBI agent in The Boondock Saints. For Dafoe, his choices are always based on artistic merit and personal interest, not box office appeal.
One of the things that I look for is a character. I look at what the character does, and I ask myself if I want to do those things. Is that like fulfill some sort of fantasy of mine, or is it suggestive of me to an adventure that I'd like to take as an actor?
Dafoe earned his second Academy Award nomination for his astounding vampire transformation in Shadow of the Vampire. He was unrecognisable under the makeup, truly embodying the character of a bloodsucker. The producers of SpiderMan were so impressed with Willem's chilling performance that they approached him to play the wicked Green Goblin. For authenticity, Dafoe insisted on doing his own stunts. He was so agile and skilled that he was one of the few people who were able to operate the Goblin glider. In a change of direction, Dafoe played a rare heroic role when he lent his voice to the character of Gil in 2003's Finding Nemo. He discovered that putting the personality into a character's voice can be just as challenging as creating the character on screen.
There's a certain kind of weight and a certain kind of roughness that you bring to the voice, because the guy's basically a tough guy, and I'm not a tough guy, but on some level neither is Gil, so it's something for me to play with.
In the same year, Once Upon a Time in Mexico saw Dafoe doing what he does best, playing the villain. But with each new role, he is always looking for the best way to deliver his character.
The experience of shooting the movie I had a great time. But they tend to be very short scenes. They center around a lot of action. Your actions are very strong, very to the point. The story, in many ways, is the star.
In the Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, Dafoe showed off his comic talents and his ability to do a German accent. And he had some help getting into character.
The costume is huge. It certainly points the way, and certainly when I get in these clothes,
I don't feel quite like myself. So that's always a good place to start with the costume.
Throughout his career, Dafoe has worked with some of Hollywood's most talented directors, like Oliver Stone and Martin Scorsese. And the Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou director Wes Anderson was no exception.
On paper, the script is very good, but it's really Wes's details, some of which are on the page and some of which are not, and some of which are invented on the day, that really is what attracted. I think above all, I wanted to work with Wes.
Even though he was a supporting role in the film, Dafoe didn't take his acting responsibilities lightly.
One thing about working on this film, it's a large cast, and particularly how I function, I'm part of an ensemble. And on the page, I go to work some days and I've got 2 lines of dialogue. I'm usually more involved than that. So it's really, it's an interesting process to see how to serve the project and also not need too much, but be very present when they need you to invent something.
Keen to do more comedy, he jumped at the chance to play an arrogant film director in Mr. Bean's Holiday.
I've always been interested in doing more comedy, and I think, from my perspective, I've done a lot of comedy through the years. But it's not, you know, kind of the obvious, like something like Bobby Peru in Wild at Heart, if you've ever seen that movie, I think is comedy. But all I can say is I look at projects, and a lot of good comedies came up and a lot of good opportunities to do something slightly different, or at least, whether that's an illusion, you know, self-delusion, it feels like it's something different. So I can invest myself in a different way and it's more fun.
But Dafoe wasn't just in it for the laughs. The opportunity to work with Rowan Atkinson was a big draw card.
And I thought, yes, this is unlike, doesn't feel like anything I've done before. And it always, as an actor, you always remember those moments where you see something that impresses you or you get a big kick out of it. And in this case, I remember very well seeing those black adders and just loving Rowan and thinking how brilliant he was. So you get a little titillated to think that you're going to be working in the same movie with him.
Dafoe loves to push himself and his audience out of their comfort zone, and he's certainly got the chance to do this in Lars von Trier's controversial film Antichrist. The film follows a couple as they mourn the loss of their child, and Trier's directing process was very different to what Dafoe had previously experienced in Hollywood.
He really prohibits rehearsal, literally prohibits, like doesn't even want you to know where you're going to go in the scene. And it's quite a startling thing. I don't know if you can understand, because usually when you conventionally approach a scene, you'll walk around, you'll talk about it, you'll, you know, block it out a little bit, you'll do some stuff with the camera, you'll light for it. There's all these ways to ease into it, and you slowly get an orientation, you start to make associations, you start to build a performance, you start to build the scene. There's no building a scene here. The camera's fluid, you go in there, you know your dialogue, you don't know what is going to happen. If the script says, you know, you slap her here, you know, that's what happens. Are you really going to slap her? Are you going to push her? You know, you're working out all these things, and in this tension, this working out of all these things, that's the drama.
And Dafoe admits that while Trier's unusual approach to filmmaking was challenging, it did get results.
It's always interesting, you know, when we're doing, when Charlotte and I are doing a scene, there's no discussion, so there's a real kind of, we have to really figure out in unspoken ways. Let's, you know, I didn't even touch her until we were before camera, you know? We didn't know each other. It was a very weird thing. And you're simulating lovemaking, you don't have a conversation about can I touch you there or can I not touch you there. It's all got to be understood. You have to meet somewhere in a real... It's pretty interesting how you make that contract, and you're making it in front of the camera. And that was something.
Having previously played a vampire in Shadow of the Vampire, Dafoe turned the tables and hunted them down in Daybreakers. And while he's no longer a young man, he proved he's still a force to be reckoned with.
It's amazing how fit Willem Dafoe is. And he could outrun Ethan Hawke, who's, 15 years young, maybe 20 years younger than him. Yeah.
Willem Dafoe may feel he's missed out on more conventional roles because he's regarded as a quirky and dark actor. But if you ask me, he's had a remarkable career. I mean, who else could go from playing a soldier to a vampire and the Green Goblin? Stay tuned to Star Picks for all of the movies you know and the actors you love. Broadcast in glorious high definition with 5.1 surround sound where available. For more of the best in entertainment news, check out your Movie Network channels. It's altogether better, on screen and at mnc.tv.